that led to change of wages. Before that, over 60% of doctors were graduating while they have plan B in private sectors. We have many pharmacists who joined GSK and other private institutions. We have so many doctors who joined Nairobi Hospital and the likes in those years. But at the formation of Kmpdu in 2010-2011, when wages were doubled, there was a reverse. That the likes of Nairobi hospitals, the likes of Aga Khan, the likes of Mata had now to try and match the wages of government because they could not get any more cheap labor. It didn't end there, because we had robust young doctors who thought that it was time now to save themselves. It was time to give dignity to this profession, to make you not a slave of what you learned in school, but to be able to walk on the street and say, I am a doctor and I deserve some respect. And a collective bargaining agreement was negotiated for 2013. I believe we all know that Mark Board signed this particular collective bargaining agreement that then was to pay an intern doctor $357,000. It was this collective bargaining agreement that was to pay Job Group M $400,000. I remember it was to pay the consultants about $1 million. I still believe that is less money based on the works that doctors do in the hospitals. But we know government, which is most of the time has very dishonest, these people with disdain, and people who can't be trusted, disowned these documents. And our leaders that we took office from, in 2016 when we were branch leaders, made a unanimous decision that we must have a collective bargaining agreement to protect the little gains that we've had, to ensure that this CBA that was also signed is implemented. And that was happening after the courts of law had upheld this CBA. You all know what happened. That strike went for 100 days. Our colleagues were jailed. And at the end of that strike, the CBA was negotiated. The CBA was not negotiated during the strike. It was negotiated after the strike. So there's no element of duress or coercion that government would allude that is what made them negotiate the CBA. It was signed, and SRC gave letters of no objection to each and every article and element of that CBA. That CBA recognized the work and the role of interns based on the job evaluation that was done by SRC. From 2017, every doctor who graduated in this country has enjoyed the fruits of that CBA. It was not given to doctors, it was fought for. And we must remember that. And it was not fought for by leaders, it was fought for by all of us, because the union is all of us. We have had interns from 2013, from independence to date. We've had interns data from 2013 that we were analyzing as a union to 2024. And then we realized that from 2013, the highest number of interns who have ever existed in this country at one point was in 2021 when there were 1,300. So averagely, we've been having 900 interns per year. So any question or any concern that is absent in the number of interns that are being produced that will result into the action being taken by government is a lie. So yes, the doctors have enjoyed the fruits of this CBA from 2017 to the time that we all went to the ballot and voted. I know some were blue and some were yellow. That one doesn't matter right now, but that is the truth. That our problem started at the ballot. It was the day that we elected leaders in the office. was in 2022 August. But I must remind you that at that time, yes, the allowances and other elements of the CBA had been implemented. There was one component that had not been implemented that no doctors enjoyed in this country. That is the basic salary component in full. So as we fight the reductions of wages for interns, they actually need to be increased because basic salary has not been implemented for them. But as I told you, problems started with the new government. And when the Minister of Health on 5th of November 2022 went to JKF Live, she said something, that Kenya is the only country where interns are earning more than doctors. And she's been appointed to that office to ensure that that is regularized. And we said ignorance is not a virtue. And we pushed it back on Twitter and it trended. But it is something that could have been the foundation of our appointment to the office. Because he said it on a first interview. Yes, because we pushed back, it was not done that time. But I want to remind you that that's not the only problem you're facing right now. Because in January 2023, last year, by sheer luck, we came across a letter to all the employers that was removing non-practice allowance from our payslips, from that of judges and that of lawyers. And none of these individuals went to court, but we went to court. But because it was even affecting the judges, they could not be bribed against it. Because it was affecting everybody, they had to give us a favorable ruling. They gave us a stay order that was stopping any employer from removing it. The LSK joined, the PSC joined, everybody came to this case. And we won. That's why we still have the non-practice allowance. But SRC, I think, went to appeal. But still, as I say, it's not a worry because even the judges are enjoying it. That is a concern. We need not to forget that. So yes, we have been having a problem of posting of interns every year. And in every year, we've been going to the streets. From the time we've been in the office for the last 3 years, or the last 2 years, it depends on how we look at it. We have actually forced the government to post interns because they always say they have not budgeted. Even when the government came to office, when we had SBC in Nakuru, we issued a notice or intention to strike. And the first #1 agenda was the posting of interns. And we all remember that in January 16th, 889 interns were posted with the right wages. So then this year, because it is a fight that has been normalized. Every year we fight for interns and we ask for posting and posting in the right terms. We did the same. Our concern was not wages. Our concern was that interns had graduated and they needed to be posted. When we gave that notice that interns be posted, we were doing the normal demonstration that we be doing every year. I doubt if any of us in this room has not demonstrated for them to be paid as interns or to be posted on time from 2016. So that's the reality. But a nefarious plan was cooking that had been hatched way back from 2022. That the ministry asked SRC to advise them on how to pay interns the money they have. And it so happened that they reduced these wages to 70,000 gross, which comes to about 42,000 net. But this was not our demand. Our demand was posting. We must all remember that every time when you do something right, you remember how you did it. And therefore, you can't change. Or when you are sailing or you're using a boat somewhere, you know the path you followed because you're using the same way to get that destination. So when you were in these negotiations with the government, they said SRC is an independent body, that their adversary is law that cannot be challenged. At that point, we were all in contempt of court because we were on strike. And the legal team led by Wasika and the committee advised that at this point, let's remember that we actually managed to retain non-profit allowance. Therefore, we can actually challenge the SRC circular in similar manner because the CBA is one. The CBA for the interns and the CBA that we enjoy is the same. Yes, this matter also was in court, and you must all remember that at every negotiation that you are having, it was out of the court direction. This government were not interested to be the union. You must always remember that every meeting was ordered by the court. At one point, we went for 2 weeks without any meetings. Why? Because they said we have to suspend the strike first. We went to a meeting at KICC with about 30 governors, with the minister, and with the deputy head of public service that time, Nanok. And one thing they asked, have you complied with the court order suspending the strike? Well, we said no, they walked out of the negotiation. I mean, that is also the first time in the history of labor that the government or the employers would walk out of unions, because that happened. But then the court gave directions by them that we should negotiate without conditions, and we continued. Got agreement, but the court also ordered that because we ran to courts over the issue of internship in a competent court, it is sub judice to have a discussion of the same in your negotiations. We said no. So we insisted on the same for quite a period. But then at one point on day 54, on day 53, when we had a return to our formula and said, okay, fine, let's register our positions for the union and for the government on internship. And we did that, but the government refused to give timelines of every other thing. So they insisted that we have to sign the agreement. I think most of us remember, and all of us, if not all of us, that they signed the return to our formula themselves at KICC. But then when they went back to court to deposit it, the court said, go and get timelines. So on the day 55, the court again ordered that now that there are timelines, let the issue of the interns be handled by the competent court, while these other matters be resolved as per the timelines. So we are to sit down as National Advisory Council and weigh the situation, analyze it. And I think I cannot give you a better analysis of the county situations, of the hospitals, that is KNH, KUTRH, and MTRH, better than you, because we all understand when we are on strike and we have reached a point where 40% have resumed work, we end up having fragmentation, we end up having victimization, we end up losing the power that we have. And when that panic was creeping in, we had to look at how do we end this with an upper hand that we can call for another action when you are respected by the employer. And that's what formed the decisions of the National Advisory Council to actually call the strike off that time. And when that was done, we knew, I think we said this, that yes, the strike we had at that point was a reaction to some point. But we are blessed that every member hit the call at a particular time. And I appreciate that, because it just happened at the time that I was shot with the canister. It shows an indication of solidarity. It actually expressed that even me, as I stand to fight or to disagree with government, I'm not alone. But we have to get outcomes. So yes, if you look at the return to work formula, we agreed on things that were to be done. So in essence, when you go back to 2017 when you had the CBA, and look at the situation today, brothers and sisters, we are better. When you look at the time we're going on strike on the issue of interns and now, I think we are better. But we are better because we're in a position that we can negotiate and get things done. Number one, asset-based salary arrears. This is not a new thing. We must all remember that it was 7 years ago. It was signed by Oluga and the team who left the office in 2020. That is 4 years afterwards. We also had the transition, and I must say that they tried so much to make it implemented. There were conversion tables that were made during that time, but were not utilized. Then during Machonda time, things also continued because they went to courts and tried to defend the aspect that government has not paid us. So when you were coming to the office in 2021, we were waiting for judgment of a case that had been already instituted. The judgment was delivered on 20th of October 2022, telling the government to pay the arrears in 60 days. But you all know that it was not paid, and not even a single doctor at that point knew how much they were owed, because we kept asking, provide us with your pay slips for the last number of years to get this data. So when we issued a notice after the SDC of 2022, is when a team was set up, a multi-agency team, to analyze this data, to discuss it, and to unravel how much each doctor is owed in 2023. So when we were going to strike on 2024, we were having an element of how much we are owed. And it was indicating about 1.2 billion. When we went on strike, this figure became 3.518 billion for the 47 counties, and about 79 million for the Ministry of Health. Before the strike, government did not acknowledge that they owe us money. But now we have seen letters or correspondence between Treasury, the Ministry of Health, and the Council of Governors indicating how much each doctor is owed. We have shared this in the Kmpdu app. So actually there's progress. We have been owed this money. It's the first time we sat with government on 27th of August, where they indicated that this money will be paid in September. And I'm very sure most of you watched the video that Dr. Maya was shooting in the office that indicated you'll get your monies in September. Some may call me a liar, by the way. And I know some may feel frustrated that there was no money. But I keep asking, if as a member who is waiting for money to be paid is frustrated because it has already been paid, how do you think we feel when you go around the house and have meetings the whole day, the whole night? You go to the Ministry of Health corridors to discuss this money, and they tell you it will be paid. And then you communicate to your members, it's not paid. How do you think these leaders will be frustrated? So yes, when we're frustrated, we get more frustrated because we feel that some games get played. And I'm saying this with the reality that it's never a priority when our actions or our issues is at the goodwill of the government or any other employer. So yes, we are looking at the money to be paid. And I think that I want to address that is very critical. That if you read that return to work formula, the agreement indicates that that money will be paid in 5 years. In 5-year installments. So 5 years. But that hours that we are aided so much for visiting. The state house that we visited, that we went with NEC members and one doctor from private sector and an intern. We went to ask only 2 things. And I know at one point, if you have a discussion with Dr. Nelly Bosire, she will tell you. If you could meet the intern, Charlie, she will tell you. We did not ask many things. We only asked two things. We explained to the president that this money has been held for 7 years. We are doctors and we found the need to go back to the hospital and treat the patient. But it would be justifiable to pay this in less period. And indeed, he said, because this is debt, instead of 5 years, the first batch be paid this year, financial year, that's July. The second batch be paid next year. I believe all of us know that again. We again talked about the interns and the CBA, and Dr. Nelly Bosire, Dr. Miskele, Dr. Kaura, all of us took time, and Dr. Mwachi took time to explain in details, rather to educate the role of the interns, because it was indoctrinated in the head of the state that an intern is a student, and it was nicked in the CBA. And when we explained, he asked, and how many interns are we talking about? We said 1,200. But the minister said, no, that's 6,600. So you're almost getting into argument. Then he said, if there are doctors working, why can't they be paid as per the CBA? But the then minister said, Your Excellency, we agreed to discuss this in 6 days. Let's go discuss it, we'll resolve it. Then the minister asked, can the union allow these interns to be posted? As we discussed, we said no, absolutely there. So we came back to discuss it in 60 days, which did not take place. When she left, we now looked at mechanisms to handle this particular matter, because the timeline had passed, and decided to agree that the SRC circular be set aside, which was done. After setting it aside, we said, let interns go and work, so that depending on the outcome of the court, they will be paid their wages. And we had confidence, as I explained, that our circular, our CBA is one. The judge, realizing that there was death of an intern on 17th of September, postponed the judgment to 26th of October and took a neutral position. I don't dispute that judgment in any way, because the judge did not just direct that we be paid either the SS circular or the CBA. The judge said that the Ministry of Health has a right as a ministry to seek advisory from SRC, an independent body. And SRC has a right to advise. So for all the 6 cases of nurses, of clinical officers, of all those other ones, there was no conflict. But the judge said, for the intern doctors, there's a dispute of this circular with the CBA of doctors. And therefore the judge said, go there and negotiate. The ministry advised that we should negotiate between 47 to 70. But as based on our lawyers, it has been explained, we need to negotiate how the CBA money is going to be paid. And that's why, and I'll show you the reports of the negotiation, it has been how is it going to be paid. So we realize we're not going anywhere on this negotiation of basic salary of interns. And I remember as NAC we met and NEC and discussed and say we give government 45 days for negotiation because court ordered it. And negotiations is not limited to boardrooms. Then from there we proceed to negotiate on the streets and at home. That was the agreement that we had. So last week, in Eldoret, we declared that we did the same in Kisi. And last week we said we will have our special delegate to discuss the same. Again, government reacted to this. First of all, and the reason why we also changed the program, is that they've said they've paid interns all the money. Because you remember last week we instructed interns to go home so that we can make a decision on all other issues here today. And indicating that they've paid all the money, we also learned last week they were planning to pay them the 42,000. Today as we speak, while interns are home, they've paid the 42,000 for 4 months and saying that they'll pay them all the money. That is bastardization of the CBA. And Dr. Kaura was telling me in the morning that SRC can actually go back to court through the letter of treasury like they had with interns and say they can't afford to pay non-produce allowance. And the court will side with them because that's part of government. As they released the money for interns, they've also indicated that they've released 700 million for the basic salary arrears. This tells you that we are dealing with dishonest people. We are dealing with people who will not give us anything that we need. Because why would they react after we have told them these things are not moving? They say they are paying so that we go negotiate. By paying what is not enshrined in our CBA is violation of the CBA. By paying less than what we agreed and was adopted in court for 2 years is violation of our agreement. So doctors, if a threat of action make them react in such a manner, how is it if we utilize our power of solidarity? Because there's no any other power than our skills. And I think Dr. Rotich will tell you the reality. We have been in the office in Harambee House and sat there for 8 hours and came out with nothing. We've gone there more than 4 times together with Evans, the technical assistant. We've been in the Ministry of Health for meetings, several meetings, and in all these meetings we don't go alone, we go even with interns. Sometimes we don't find it valuable to communicate processes. So when we're asking you that we need actions, it's because as leaders that you gave the mandate to serve you. We have walked in these corridors, we have walked in those places to get these things that we signed implemented. But we found that the people we are dealing with are dishonest and are not in any way prioritizing what we feel is so urgent. So that is on interns money, it needs action. That is on the issue of basic salary and law has to be released. In fact, they're saying they will release all of it this month because they're saying we'll take action. But remember, I'm sorry I'm taking a lot of time because it is necessary, that the Council of Governors last week said that Senate and Assembly have negotiated and gave them 387 billion, which is far less than what they were demanding at 400 billion. And the new chairman of the Council of Governors said in broad daylight in media that what that means is that they will not honor the return to work formula they signed with us on 8th of May 2024. It means that yes, you are facing deductions on shift, yes, you have deductions on housing levy, yes, the taxation has been expanded, but the money that is owed to you from July to now and to continuous years will not be paid to you. That is the highest level of disrespect that a governor can speak. That indicates how these people take you or how they take us. Because why are you so swift to take money from me and you're not so quick to give me what you owe me? We have gone further to analyze how much doctors need to get from their pay slips, from job group L to S. And this was done by the consultant, including Dr. Gidenji. And I can tell you some counties, just need 5 million to effect this, like Wasigishu. County like Kmpdu need only 105 million every month, every year to implement this. The county that need the highest money is Nairobi County, because they got more number of doctors. They need 163 million to implement this. This will see to it in your pay slip from job group M to job group S an increase of 16,000, 24,000, 33,000 and 43,000 as it goes down. It is your right. But employer or ambiguous body of chair of COG has said they will not pay. So you have two options: to wait at the goodwill when economy balances so that they pay you maybe in 15 years or 25 years, or to believe in your dignity that you have skills and services that you offer in this country. By the way, the same governor who announced that told me that one surgery in Wajir by one doctor paid them 300,000 and it was a 2-hour surgery. So yes, they're saying they need to build the economy before they pay you. So you have to decide whether you are going to bend and beg, or you're going to stand and say, no, we need this money in our pay slips now, because 7 months have passed without it being implemented. We need our basic salary arrears now, because we signed for it to be paid in July as we've been paid. We need interns' debts that are owed to them, because we are at a better place now. We have the money for posting. We have the money to payments of debt for these interns who have worked and have actually generated more revenue to these hospitals across the country. So we need the payment of arrears now. We need also to remember that in the return to work formula, and this for the first time, the registrars that have been enslaved and have been servitude in these level 6 hospitals, level 5 hospitals, and level 3 hospitals. Yes, it was difficult to negotiate it, and I must, and Dr. Bosibori will remember, that the CS, the government refused to discuss it completely. When we were at KICC, we said we will not sign the return to work formula without a line that indicates the working hours for registrars. And then we said the working hours should be 40 hours. Any extra hours need to be remunerated as per the KMPDC, because we knew what we were fighting for, and that is what was signed. That is what was adopted in court. So our role is simple. When we are saying interns are owed money, when we are saying doctors are owed money, the registrars are owed money. Because I've been in 3 meetings with the University of Nairobi, with the Moi University, and again with University of Nairobi, where the professors and the deans expressed that it is impossible to do 40 hours a week for registrars. That indicates that they still do 60 hours and some do 80 hours. If you're doing 60 hours, you are owed 20 hours per 2,000 per hour for that period. If you're working 40 hours, then that's extra. So yes, and we wrote to the universities and the national referral hospitals that we need data on the extra hours the doctors have worked, which they didn't provide. I remember yesterday, through estimations with Washika, it was indicating that if you go by estimate of hours of the registrar across the country, they owed more than 300 million for that period. So therefore, we are going to demand that this is the money owed to this number of registrars who have worked far beyond the 40 hours that we agreed and was adopted in court. And if they oppose that, then they should provide for us the hours that they know, because each of these registrars work those hours. I know it will be a difficult conversation, but that is what will ensure that the registrars that are privately sponsored, that are currently enslaving those hospitals, are paid. We had this deep discussion and this strategy with Nikal and the team, that yes, by them actually agreeing to pay the extra hours, which is impossible, then now we can negotiate a package. So yes, when we are asking you for action, We're not asking you to give us mandate to go back and negotiate. We're asking you that the employer may see the value and the dignity of every doctor. The employer may appreciate the time you spend on social media, on campaigns and on actions, that the debts that are owed are paid. That we need these monies to be released. There's nothing else I think that we need than the debts to be paid. That it should be a priority like the Eurobond. That it should be a priority like every other activity, every other venture the government invests in, like the money they pay the parliamentarians. We should be a priority, but that can't come easy without action. So yes, we have to soul search and check and ask ourselves, why when you leave county and go to postgraduates in the National Referral Hospital, and then you have to pay your own fee? In that agreement, they agree to pay the fees, but they only pay part of it. So yes, our call for actions is just for payment. We know what strikes can do. And one of the critical examples is the KNH doctors, who since 2019 have earned 80,000, but after May 2024 are now earning 300,000. All of them didn't believe that they could get this money. But when you were going on strike, when the 81 doctors were convinced that they would be out and were ready to lose their jobs, the next day 115 other doctors applied to be paid the 80,000. When we had put the issue of NMS as agenda number 13 in our strike, and we're discussing it, the doctors went and have an agreement with governor and reported back to work. The 120 of them. And you all know how the governor was talking. You all remember that that agreement was not honored. It was still us in the negotiation when we said, yes, these are our doctors, these are our colleagues. We know that they were frightened, but we have to protect them. It is the union who again has provided for them the PNP that they have now. And Dr. addressed to that. So yes, this was impossible. This we lost in court. But this was given to us by solidarity of doctors across the entire country. The same has happened to the doctors in KNH. And we went further to have a CBA signed in KNH for the first time, so that we can now talk about protection of the CBA and discrimination against the CBA. But yet, you are yet to get the PNP for those doctors. This is the time. We look at the same in KUTRH, where again, when you're on strike, registrars were full in the corridors, doing locums there. And it made those doctors afraid even to be on strike. But what we were trying to stop from KUTRH was the locums. You are on a locum, perpetually on locum. When they give you contract, they give you contract for 5 years. You have no career progression. You will die a medical officer or a pharmacist or a dentist. You cannot do anything. Your colleagues will progress ahead of you. But we stopped that. We said, by saying, okay, ensure everybody has 3 years contract with gratuity. We put gratuity to make it difficult for them to have it. Why? Because every 3 years before your new contract, pay gratuity. So they end up finding it cheap. But now, with the CBA that is being finalized, and I told the chair of the board yesterday, that without the PNP for those doctors and the eradication of those long-term contracts and the locums, all those doctors have to join this action, because no one's future is safe if you're on contract. Especially contracts where there will be, which are subjective to individual perceptions. So doctors, as I give these sermonettes or a speech, I'm just asking you that many things may be said. We may be told that we have received 5 million or 6 million or 16 million. But I want to be very honest with you. I was offered money. I was not offered 3 million or 5 million or 6 million. I was offered 100 million. It was on a sole purpose that we accept to forget about interns. We accept to forget about our arrears. That was the reason why those things were offered. And I can tell you this, most of you are not crooks, and that's why you don't understand. When you are a crook or when you are a drug dealer, when you make a deal and take money from these people, you got no moral authority to come back and challenge the same persons. You cannot have any moral authority to write the letters that we are writing to the government and telling them that they're responsible for the deaths of our dear brothers and sisters. You cannot have moral authority to call you here and ask you that we need to sanction an action that will ensure that these things are implemented, that we can see them in our pay slips, that we can see them in our banks. But just like in every other place, I want to tell you, even here amidst us, the enemies, that those who have been sent to see how much we are convicted to get these things. And they will be everywhere, they will be in every forum. And in every market there's a madman. These are people who will sing every song of dishonesty to dissuade you from believing in one singular power that you have, the power of action, the power of solidarity, so that you can remain in despair and desperation. Ask yourself today, we have many organizations in this country. We have KHF, I don't know what it means. We have KMA. We have PSK. We have KDA. We have many organizations, both faith-based, both religious, even the civil society bodies. But tell me, which of these, even other unions, which of these have come out to say no to slavery, no to salary reduction for the interns? Think about it. Which organization has come to say that? It's only Kmpdu that has come and stood and say, we will not accept bastardization of the CBA that was negotiated. We have come to say that we are ready to die for this particular CBA unless a new one is negotiated. But again, when you do so much that you're the one who is being seen doing it, you're the one who is most hated because you're doing something. Because they want you to stop from believing in that thing is going to help you. You've seen us trending negatively on Twitter. I don't care about that though. You've seen the negative images of body shaming that I give to people. But the same ones who are doing that, they can only write on Twitter. They can only write on Facebook. They will not take the bullets. They will not take the street for you. In the strike that we had for 56 days, we were spending sleepless nights mobilizing students and mobilizing doctors and everybody to come for those actions. At one point, one of our strongest agenda was unemployment. We asked unemployed doctors to come to Ufungamano. We had 4. When we asked them to be with us on Zoom, they were like, no, we have clinics. So we were asking, do we have unemployment or we have underemployment? And these people who are underemployed, both in the private sector and public sector, are ready to stand up for themselves because they fear. And what will keep us to be slaves is that fear to take action. So I'm asking you today that yes, all has been said. Yes, we went on the street for 56 days, and that document that most of you, I believe, also did not read. Just believe that somebody has said it's useless. I didn't go down to check it because it's adopted in court. Be implemented. I can tell you, for being in the corridors of the Ministry of Health, it won't be implemented. For being in any office, it will not be implemented. For us as leaders, we cannot do it. We cannot do it. But if we all come out as doctors in this country, we will do it. And I'm saying this with a lot of humility. Because imagine that this intern earns 41,000. He's done with internship. He's employed in Nairobi hospital. How much will the employer give? 56,000 or 50,000? Or at most 70,000? The same. The government will pay the same amount of money or less. The same NGOs will pay. But I want to ask you, what moral authority will you have to start bargaining for higher wages when those who are working within the same facility are being paid less? Much less than a tenth of wages. wages. So this fight is not for interns, it's for your survival. We cannot commit ourselves to negotiate a CBA now, because we don't know what we'll get from that CBA. We cannot do it when the interns or when they're losing the wages, because where they're taking us, Dr. Jill will explain to you, is more than 15 years ago. So doctors, I am just saying all this so that we all know at a standpoint why we called you and why we keep saying in those press briefing that we need action. But maybe the action we need may need a different trajectory. We need to get a team to audit the strike of March and May so that we can see the misses. We can see the gains of that strike. We can see the process of it. And then we do not need mobilizers to be the only leaders. We need all these delegates to be the mobilizers. That you should be convinced enough that from the hospital you come from, you need to protect your wages. That you are protecting the profession, that your child or your grandchild will say you did it at your time. This cannot happen by ourselves. This can only happen when we decide and say we have to take action, and we have to do it with unity. So as I say this, and I'll ask Chair after this to open the floor for members to contribute before we take a direction to the same, that in every comment you do, put yourself first and think of 5 years, think of 10 years. And the reality is that as leaders of this union, we are on transit. The union ought to live beyond our time. And this, you know, lie. Yesterday, 2 days ago when I gave that letter, I was told that as SG will be eliminated from the union. I don't fear that. Because I know that if Niskela comes here, or Sisanya comes here, or Bosibori comes here, or Darwin comes here, or Makomele comes here, or anybody who comes here will actually go and do the same thing that we are doing for the doctors. So that is not what we fear. They said they will proscribe the union. If they prescribe the union, they don't take away your skills. So those are the things that they will always propagate to make you capitulate and give in. But I keep saying, if we are united and we want things to be done, we must take bold actions. And finally, and the last statement is a story that when you see soldiers are going to war, and I told this to work yesterday, that they all got guns that have been loaded. And the opponents also have guns that have been loaded. So when you go into the battlefield, you either shoot or you get shot. But one thing for sure that is to happen there is either you die or your opponent dies. So the last thing which you should ever have is fear of death at the point of action, at the point of war. So we should ask ourselves, are we ready to die for this? Are we ready to lose everything to gain all the dignity that we deserve as doctors? Thank you. What is Chair?
Viva Kmpdu, viva! Thank you, my brother, Davji, for that powerful speech. Are you excited? Are you motivated? Are you renewed? The union will always remain. Everybody else will go. Everything else shall pass. Chama litasimama, chama litasimama, mambo yatapita, lakini chama litasimama. Chama litasimama, chama litasimama, mambo yote yatapita, lakini chama litasimama. It simply means that all these challenges are only for a moment. Long after we are gone, the union shall remain.